So I have cancelled my Spotify Premium subscription and it really saved my relationship with music.
For years, Spotify was my main music streaming service. It has a powerful algorithm that gives you really good recommendations, one of the biggest music libraries, and the ability to listen to any track, anywhere, anytime you want. However, I said goodbye and don't regret it.
In this video, I'll share my experience of quitting Spotify. I'll tell you the 3 key points I learned and show you how I listen to music now. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's get started.
Today it's very easy to interact with music. You literally have almost any song in the world right in your pocket. Music services offer a lot of cool features like similar tracks you might love, charts, new releases, and more. And don't get me wrong, it's really convenient, but from my point of view it also slightly devalues the music.
One day my 37-year-old friend asked a 16-year-old guy what kind of music he listens to and who his favorite bands are. And the guy responded with something like, I don't know, I'm just listening to whatever Spotify recommends. He couldn't even name the artists. That was something really weird to me.
When I was a kid, I listened to music on cassettes. I knew the names of my favorite bands, the titles of albums and tracks, and even the order in which each track was played on the album.
However, after some time using streaming services, I started to feel like that 16-year-old guy. I would launch the Spotify app, start playing some music in the background, and that's it. If a recommended track was good, I just hit the like button and wouldn't even remember the artist's name or the title of the song. That's why I decided to change the way I interact with music. So there were a couple of options to replace Spotify.
The first was to use only physical media. Since I've been listening to and collecting vinyl records over the past year, I have a lot of albums I love. However, vinyl isn't a convenient option. You can't take it with you. Then I thought about buying a CD or cassette player, but after a while I declined that idea too. There weren't many good players for a reasonable price and I don't have a big collection of cassettes or CDs. Of course, you can find them and they are cheaper than vinyl records, but it's an additional investment I wasn't ready to make.
The second option was to go with digital music and buy an iPod.
I started searching for used iPods and was really surprised by the price. In my country they were too expensive and I didn't like the offers. Some of them were in very bad condition and required battery replacement or even other parts. I could also buy some refurbished iPods on eBay, but to me it seemed too risky. And the final argument for declining this option was the absence of Bluetooth. I prefer a wired connection because it provides better sound quality, but in some cases it's just not convenient, for example during workouts.
I found some customized iPods with a Bluetooth module, but they were too expensive, nearly $500. iPod Touch models weren't an option either because of their low storage capacity. That's why I decided to turn my old iPhone into a music player.
So I have an iPhone 7 with 128GB of storage. The battery capacity is low and needs replacement, but it works fine for my music needs. One of the main challenges was turning it into a music player, not just a phone with music. I didn't want to get distracted by social media or any other activities a phone offers, only music listening. That's why I deleted all the apps like Facebook and Instagram. I also removed all the games and any default apps that were possible to delete. I turned off all connections like Wi-Fi and mobile data, switched to airplane mode and even changed the wallpaper. Now I have only 2 apps on my home screen, music and podcasts, and the settings icon just in case. Also, I can use wired and wireless connections.
I connected it to my MacBook, synced out the music, and now I have a fully working music player. Now let me share the 3 things I gained after switching to this approach.
The first point I'd call a sense of ownership. Unlike Spotify or other streaming services which only give you access to a music catalog, digital copies on your players actually belong to you. It's a bit like buying physical media.
Let's say you are paying $5 a month for your music subscription. Of course, the price depends on your region. In mine, it's 5, so let's use that for the calculation. In 1 year you spend $60, in 2 years $120, and in 3 years almost $300. You might say, hey, that's still cheaper than buying digital copies, and you would be right. But imagine your income no longer allows you to keep paying for the subscriptions. These days it feels like you need a subscription for almost everything. So in the end you have spent nearly $300 over all these years, and you own nothing.
But okay, let's say the price isn't the issue. The real problem is restrictions. Just imagine that one day a copyright holder decides to limit access to certain albums, songs, or even entire artists on your streaming platform, or even in your country. Recently, I started running into these restrictions myself. I noticed that some songs from certain albums couldn't be played, and after a while, the entire albums disappeared from the platform. Stuff like that will never happen with your digital copies. When you buy it once, it's yours for life.
The second point I want to mention is careful catalog choosing. Spotify or any other music streaming service gives you access to millions of songs, and that's actually really cool. But let's be honest, you are not going to listen to the entire catalog. If I prefer rock music, I don't really need access to hip-hop or K-pop.
Since my iPhone is limited to 128 GB, I have to choose my music catalog carefully and only keep the music I actually listen to. And you know what? 128 GB is enough for me. I've already loaded it with a bunch of my favorite albums, enough to listen for not just hours, but days. And that takes up only about 50 GB, which means I still have room to double the amount of music I truly love. Also, I enjoy seeing only the music I'm listening to, rather than endless Spotify playlists like best local music, top artists, or global charts. Don't get me wrong, it's a great feature to have, but sometimes it just feels overwhelming. Maybe Spotify needs to adjust its interface a little bit.
With my current approach, I add only the music I actually want to listen to. That means my music player holds just what I need. No albums I don't like, no filler just to boost the catalog size. Every track in there is something I love, and it's always right at my fingertips, without any distractions like endless playlist I'll never listen to. And that brings us to the next point – careful listening.
I really love the way I interact with music now. Back when I used Spotify, most of the time I just shuffled my liked songs mixed with recommendations. Now I listen to full albums from the start to finish. That's how I used to listen to music before streaming services even existed. And honestly, that's how artists intend their albums to be experienced, from the first track to the last, as one complete story. I've also noticed that when I listen to full albums, I'm much more focused on the music. It's no longer just background sounds. Ask any musician, they don't want their music to be played as background noise. Even if I'm working or doing something else, I'm still listening.
And since I don't have any third-party apps on my iPhone, except for music-related ones, I can't get distracted by it. I can't check social media, endlessly scroll my feed, play games or text anyone. It's just me, my headphones and the music. That's it. Sure, I could grab my main phone, iPad or laptop and do all those things while listening, but what's the point of that kind of listening?
I used to listen to full albums on Spotify too, but it was always mixed with other activities. Sometimes I'd find a recommended playlist or tracks, switch to them, and in the end there wasn't much value in that kind of listening for me. Now I always know what I want to listen to, and I'm really listening.
Sense of ownership, careful catalog choosing and careful listening. For me, these 3 points are enough to at least try changing your music habits. I realized something needed to be changed when music stopped bringing me joy and started sounding like background noise. You might ask me if I back to Spotify. Well, probably not anytime soon. I really love the approach I'm using now. I still have an access to YouTube Music as a part of my premium subscription, but I don't use it. However, if I ever need a streaming service ASAP, I have a backup. Enjoy your music and thanks for watching. Good luck!